And I know you're expecting the Kaliuchi concert, which is it's kind of a nice surprise to have them happening at the same time. Why? Because Houston is an incredible spot for art and cultura. And I'm going to give a long introduction to some of the what's going on here tonight. But I do want to give a nice introduction to the danzantes that will begin this show because we want to honor the cultura that we've had. So one thing I tell kids is that if anyone should say to you, go back to where you came from, we've been here thousands of years. So, representing nuestras raíces profundas, representing our history and culture going back thousands of years, as testified to by the amazing pyramids that people visit, and yet still they deny our abilities to create and imagine. We defy that here tonight. Please welcome an organization that is spreading our cultura far and wide. We're going to tell you too how they've been recognized by Houston Endowment with a grant for $100,000. We want to support that as well. Azteca Dos Quioto, por favor, aplausos. It's not working, then you can just use that one then. You want to put it on here? While you're checking to see if you can hear it.
Okay, now I can hear it now. I can hear it now.
So it's this then.
Yeah.
Let's put that one on. Thank you so much for that. Wow. I asked Monica if she wanted to come up to the mic, and she said what she needed to say. But I do want to add, she pointed out that they do free classes for the community on the East End, and you can go and help any way you want. But there's a few key things she mentioned. She mentioned that when you go there to the park in our barrio, you're at home. We wanted to begin with Danza Azteca Toshkayopoloto because even by saying their name, you invoke our history. And today, we're not just going to talk about the origins of Nuestra Palabra. We're going to talk about what's next. Because I have to remind us, people sometimes say that there's not any talent in Houston from our community. I know you know different. Today, we defy the people that said we don't have a history, and you're all friends here. 25 years ago, we convened in the party hall of Chapultepec Restaurant even though people said Latinos were not interested in literature. They said Latinos don't want to express their voice. And they would even say, they had the audacity to say things like, there are not enough Latino writers to sustain a reading series in English, Spanish, or Spanglish. And, we've been defying them for a quarter of a century, but we're going to tell you the new vision, because then sometimes people also say that there are not enough Latino visual artists. We wanted to do this event with our friends from Alma, surrounded by Latino visual artworks from all around. tell you more about that as the night goes through. And of course, I feel funny because everybody here has played a role in what we do. They could all be on stage. I'm giving a shout out to some of the visual artists. We got Gonzo 247. What's up, Gonzo? We also have, I saw NP XXV. Shout out to Mariana Cortez. Shout out to the visual artists that have been helping us. Because here's what's next. Now, we have been giving, as part of what Nuestra Palabra does, we have been cultivating community culture capital. I'm not going to tell you about that because you're part of that. You've been living it. I'm going to tell you, though, and remind other folks that we cannot do art for art's sake. That was not art for art's sake. We just lived an ethnic studies class. We just experienced that which is part of the history that was burned down by los conquistadores. The books were burned, the art were burned, the temples were destroyed. Yet we persist. And we've been quantifying our community culture capital. We'll talk about that. And we're going to accelerate it. And here's what I mean. Back then, we told the world that we were going to engender the voices. Here's the new call. We want all of you to know that we're teaming up with Alma. We're going to tell you in a little bit how Nuestra Palabra helped Alma write a grant that Houston Endowment funded for $1 million. To write a report that we will help submit this December 2023. And that report will say how we are uniting to create a state-of-the-art Latino arts, not one building, a complex with satellites so that as she's in the barrio performing, we still have another center to go to. So the people in Spring Branch do not feel abandoned. Mecca is not abandoned. With satellites, and we're going to have insights from our community on what they want, what they demand, and what they dream of for this facility. And it's going to be huge. It's going to cost about $300 million, but we deserve it, and it will come to pass. Now, I was going to deliver our 5th State of Latinx Art report. It's 35 pages. My wife insisted I don't do that. Fine. I said, fine. We'll bring the essentials. We're going to dramatize it. Tonight, we're going to see the state of Latino visual arts and culture as we team up with our friends. And as each speaker comes up, we're going to tell you a little bit about where we're at, where we're going, but we want you to remember the big vision. And I do want to say, this ain't over. This body is going to stretch out into October 15th. And on that day, we're going to have one of our friends come down, Sandra Cisneros. You like Sandra Cisneros? You like Sandra? And we're going to have Marlon throw down on stage with her too. So we got to do it. She's coming October 15th with visual artist Chris Hernandez to do a fundraiser. He's going to auction off a painting because we're going to continue to defy censorship culture. The Libro Traficantes smuggle the books. I'm tired of smuggling books. All right? We demand to be out in the open. We're done with censorship culture. She's going to help us with that. However, we're going to start the tickets for that tonight. So we're also launching our $25,000 campaign. 25 years, $25,000. Don't get scared. Today's free. And the folks if you go to the cocktail tables later, you're going to see a Q code. On the Q code is a link to our GoFundMe campaign. If you donate tonight and become our first members for Nuestra Palabra, you'll get our newsletter. But for everyone who becomes a member at $25, you get your seat October 15th with Sandra Cisneros' event. Please spread the word. If some of you can help a little more, for $500, we're going to have a special reception. You get a signed copy of the book as well. For folks that can come in at larger figures, for example, Poet Laureate Lupe Mendez, we're going to talk about him in a little bit and all the poets laureates we've worked with. He has agreed that at the $2,500 level, he will do a keynote speech for you or your friends. He will be heartbroken if no one bids on that. And of course, if any of you have sponsors or organizations that want to come in at a higher level, please contribute, because we're going to be doing events from now to October. We'll be having a reading with Cristina Garcia, who just won a Genius for MacArthur grant. She's in charge of the Spanish PhD program at University of Houston, Creative Writing Program. We'll be doing a reading with Dr. Richard Tapia from Rice University. His book is on sale back there. We'll be doing a reading with Ben Jealous, who's the current national president of the Sierra Club, former president of the NAACP. And then we're going to do a special open mic with our writers in a park, in the community, because that's what we're about. We go everywhere, from the upper echelon to the community and to houses. And this is all an effort to fund Latino family libraries. Our community has to be shown where the artists, everyone has to have access to books in their house, en su casa. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to bring up some of our friends to highlight it. Again, everybody here has played a role in this. We're going to ask you to be part of all of our readings coming up, to please spread the word. This was my invitation only, because a lot of you have put a lot of love into what we've done for a couple of decades, and we appreciate it. But I want to start bringing up some folks that tell our story. Anybody heard of Rice University? A couple folks from Rice. I want to give an acknowledgement, and he's going to come up and talk. He's on our board. He's one of the Chicano tenured professors at Rice University, a leading scholar in Mexican American studies, a giant in intellectual letters, a champion of our community. He comes from Magnolia, desde el barrio, to Rice University. Please welcome Dr. Jose Aranda.
So that's a lot of energy to follow up on. Just to think that something like 62 years ago, I was born in Magnolia. Those of you who are from Magnolia will remember, there you go, that Parkview Hospital, not Parkview Clinic, was a hospital, and all the kids in Magnolia were born there. I was, and my brothers were too. I'm going to put my mouth in the way.
Yes.
All right. Anyway, start over. I'll start differently. Hi, gracias. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Tony, for inviting me. All the Nuestra Palabra people here to make this event possible. Gracias. I have been tenured at Rice. I'm in my 29th year at Rice. They haven't kicked me out yet. One of the things I've been thinking about as the end of the semester comes to a close, I've been thinking a lot about this movie that I teach a lot. It's called Smoke Signals. It's a Native American film, and it's very moving. One of the most moving places is at the very end when Thomas comes back to the Coeur d'Alene reservation. And he's coming back to his grandmother, and his grandmother greets him, and she greets him this way: "Thomas, tell me everything." Because Thomas has been on a long journey with lots of joys and lots of trials and tribulations. And in many ways, that phrase is in my mind right now, because as I reflect on having done the work, the research, and the writing to produce this book here, the Places of Modernity in Early Mexican American Literature, I think of all the things that I wanted to archive, the things that people wrote, the newspapers that publishers put together, the ads, the cartoons, the stories that's there. I think now I understand why I researched for this book, because I wanted the archive to tell me everything. And I hope I did a good enough job to reflect what it told me. And there's so much there. So this book covers from 1848, from the end of the Mexican-American War, to 1948, just after the Second World War. So this is a little bit how I would describe what I do. In this book, I examine the first 100 years of Mexican American literary and print production. It is a period of production when neither its writers nor its texts, and especially not its print culture, were considered productive for the national identity of either the United States or Mexico. Through the lens of liberation philosophy from Latin America, and with criticism from Black Mexican scholars, settler colonial scholars, I examined how the burdens of modernity become the dominant discursive logic for understanding why people of Mexican descent nonetheless wrote and invested in print culture without any guarantee of its social, cultural, and political efficacy. In short, as a kid in Magnolia, we had the Chicano and Chicano activists, we had the priest activists, we had the nun activists. They had a sense of why that moment was important and what we should fight for. But as I grew up and became knowledgeable about Mexican-American literary history, the question came to mind, before the movement, why did people write? Nobody wanted their work. Everybody lived in these enclaves, barrios. Mexico didn't want them, the United States didn't want them, but God, people wrote. And they had something to say, and they had something to impart from one generation to the next. So I went after those archives. And so this little talk today is about the afterlife of archives. They just don't live in libraries. They don't just live in books like this. They live in us. So one of the lessons I think I want to share with you is that the reason partly I go after certain kinds of research topics is because the writers themselves are reflecting ideas or experiences or events that I too shared with them, even if it was written 100 years ago or 50 years ago. There are certain things that continue to be kind of negative signatures of our experience as Mexican Americans. So let me share with you the beginning of my chapter 4. So here's an example. The chapter title is Me llaman Mexicana, Gender and Choice Under Coloniality. And here I'm talking about Jovita Gonzalez, well-known folklorist from South Texas. When she was younger, she wrote this poem, and I found this poem in the Benson collection at UT Austin. The title of this poem, it was never published, is Un Incidente Feo. No quería entrar al jardín. Sin ver a nadie me sentía humillada. Pero de todos modos, Carlota, la criada, oyó el timbre y me abrió el portón. Mi abuela me recibió con un vaso de leche helada y unos bizcochos recién hechos. A verme, mi abuela dejó el libro que leía y vino a arreglarlo. Pero nena, ¿qué tienes? ¿Qué te pasa? Mira nomás qué cara traes. Parece que te picó un panal de abejas. Al oír las palabras me puse a llorar más y más. Niña, ¿qué te pasa? ¿Qué te pasa? Y entre más me hablaba, más lloraba. Por Dios, nena, habla. Es que las muchachas americanas no quieren jugar con nosotros. Me llaman mexicana y dicen que soy mala y que debo irme para México. Yo arreglé todo. Iré a ver a la madre superior y a mi nieta no se le insulta ni se le olvida. So, in the archive for Jovita Gonzalez, who ends up going to UT Austin to get a master's with no Tejana would ever go. This is in the 30s. She's probably one of the first, if not the first Tejana to get a higher degree beyond a BA. In the archive, you can find this motivation. I argue this is a motivation for her. This is something where she was embarrassed, but for the strength of her grandmother, who said, no, I will talk to these people. I will make sure that this doesn't happen again. And when I realized after I published the book that a reason I picked that out as an epigraph for that chapter, chapter 4, is because I had that experience too. Many of you have had that experience too. Ser mexicano no es malo, but we know that. Like Tony keeps saying, those people don't know that, or they refuse to know that. And so, when we go to the archive as scholars, when we go to the archive as students, we look for those things that are meaningful to us. History is personal. history, like Jovita Gonzalez, is family. What we have to give each other is our history, as Tony so eloquently has said, from the last 25 years, and 25 years more to go. I'll leave you with this thought. Sometimes we need to create safe places in order to be brave. But one of the things I learned from the people who wrote in the first 100 years is sometimes you have to be brave no matter what's going on, because nobody's going to give you a safe place. And so I'll leave you with that thought, because I think this is what Don Nuestra Palabra, Libro Practicante, has been doing for a very long time. Going out there to be brave, making places safer for us so that we can be brave too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aranda. And I want to remind folks that his book is for sale in back. Also, some of the books from some of the writers we've worked with. And this is a pop-up. I want to give applause to our team that put this together. By day, come back in the day, it's empty concrete. All right. So every chair, every book, every sign was put up by our head. So a round of applause for our team. Thank you so much. And Dr. Aranda, we are selling his book. You can get it signed. I do want to give some gratitude to our elected officials. We have the Honorable City Council Representative, Mr. Gallegos. Aplausos, por favor. And like I said, everybody here has done so much for us. I do have to let you know that Councilman Gallegos, as the only Latino City Council representative, what the heck? We've counted on him a lot, and he's come through a lot. And I just got to give you a fact. He's a candidate for mayor. I also want to give a shout out to the judges that have joined us. Judge Villarreal, who's here from Mexican Bar Association. Also, Judge Raul Rodriguez, who's here with us as well. I also want to thank the chairs of the Mayor's Hispanic Advisory Board, Roland and Lenora. Thank you so much for all that you do. And I'm just saying this because we're all putting our granito de arena together. We're going to bring up some poets and writers in just a bit. We're going to celebrate our cultura in a little bit with some food by Latino chefs, paired by a sommelier who's Latino, and some vino. And we want to disfrutar con eso so we can keep building up. And then we want to talk about the people that have helped us get to this point. Next up is the director of the BIPOC Arts Network and Fund, which I'm very proud to be a part of on the steering committee. I also want to let you know that Nuestra Palabra has been able to quantify community cultural capital because we received some of the grants. The BIPOC Arts Network have received grants from other organizations for $12.5 million. They've given $2 million to community organizations, including some of the groups in this room. I want to point out too that Nuestra Palabra, by quantifying community cultural capital, we're also a fiscal sponsor for other organizations, up to 13. And I want to recognize some of them that are here. Conversando a través poesía, que siempre están acompañándonos, por favorcito. Tintero Projects también. And I also want to point out that Tintero Projects received a grant from Houston Endowment for $100,000 as well. And coming up, I'm supposed to make it quick, but you should be nice to him. BIPOC Arts Network and Fund is about to give out $1 million to individual artists. And the gentleman who's about to speak demands that our community be represented. Please welcome Sixto Guardado.
Sorry, I actually had to write this out because in a room full of writers, I'm a little nervous. Thank you. It is an incredible honor for me to be here in front of all of you, to be able to be part of the celebration of Nuestra Palabra, the 25 years, and to be able to say happy birthday, to give praise to Tony, and to all of you, the community that he's activated. Thank you for literally transforming what the face of literature looks like in Houston. As Jose said, you have been doing the brave and the necessary things, and then for 25 years, and we look forward to what's next. I'm standing here as a representative of the BIPOC Arts Networking Fund, where we have been working to resource artists and arts organizations to stand in their power, to break down silos between communities, and to create opportunities to dream, to connect, and to manifest the arts community that we deserve. As Tony said, it is a $12.4 million 5-year initiative in order for us to support arts organizations, artists of color, because we have been under-recognized and under-resourced. It is just it is a lot of money, but it's not enough money in order to solve all of the issues. But it is an important opportunity in order for us to invest in artists, to invest in arts organizations who have been doing the work. So Nuestra Palabra is an incredible example of what the success for the BIPOC Arts Networking Fund might look like. About resourcing the artists who respond to needs, about activating a community to change and transform the possibilities, and to actually create a whole new a new landscape for us as artists, for as community members, and for just as people. We are grateful to have Nuestra Palabra as a partner in our work, and to have Tony's brilliance, passion, and his attention to every word on our steering committee. It is because of Nuestra Palabra and how they have stepped into the opportunity in order to serve as that fiscal sponsor over a year ago that BAM was able to support over 13 organizations to celebrate artists that empower and artists who actually engage Latino audiences. In the last year and a half of this initiative, we are constantly reminded of the power and the need of words, of art to affirm, to validate our experience, and to remind us that we are seen, we are celebrated, and we are powerful. Yes. Thank you, Nuestra Palabra, for building a community that comes together in a time of celebration like today, but also can be called on in order to respond to crisis. Crisis that's led by natural disaster, crisis that's led by families, crisis that's led by politicians. We are thrilled that you've made it to 25 years, that you have leveraged all of this cultural capital, and that you have transformed the possibilities for writers and BIPOC communities in Houston, in this region, in this city, and in the nation. You've supported artists who have found their voice, their audience, and the communities who have found the champion. I'm intrigued about how you will leverage these 25 years of building community cultural capital. I'm excited about what's next, how you activate this community, how you collaborate with others like Abba, how you will make new things possible, because you will always be connected to and magnify the voices of the people. Now it is up to us as the people, as a community, in order to make sure that now Nuestra Palabra doesn't only survive to the next 25 years, but how do we thrive? How do we change what the possibility is? So how do we make sure that this invitation-only event actually it cannot be contained by the entirety of Post in 25 years? How do we continue to actually build on all of this and invite other people into this room? How do we invite other people to help us help them really speak back our words and our possibilities? So I will do my plug. If you have not yet donated to the GoFundMe, look at the QR code. know that $25 is important, but really it is an investment back into our community, back into you, because this is actually Nuestra Palabra, who is of us, with us, and will continue to be part of us. So thank you, happy birthday, and congratulations.
Thank you so much for those heartfelt words and for all the work that you're doing. And thank you everyone for uniting. I do want to say too, I want to give thanks to all the supporters, including, we had some good news today. The National Endowments for the Arts mentioned that we're receiving a $20,000 grant to the Big Green campaign coming out. But we're not counting that towards the 25. So, y'all ready for some poetry? Some poetry? Some poetry? All right. We've got so many poets we're going to celebrate from now until October 15th. I wanted to bring up a poet then who represents the 3 poet laureates that we've worked with, just to say that we support our gente, we support our voices before the rest of the world does, and we're always right. The 2 other poets laureates have been Gwendolyn Zepeda and, of course, Libre Traficante Liz Mendez, Lupe Mendez. And right now, it gives me great pleasure to welcome her here, like we welcomed her at, y'all remember a bookstore named Borders Bookstore? Yeah. Right? When the government said that we're going to close the borders, I didn't know they meant Borders Bookstore. She read there with Elena Viramontes, who is a brilliant, brilliant Chicano writer. She's a dear friend of ours. She's Chicano legacy. Her mom and dad are here like they've been in every event for Nuestra Palabra. David's on the board of Alma. I want to say that she is a multi-genre writer, a 2021 Academy of American Poets Poet Laureate Fellow, and the 2019-2021 Houston Poet Laureate. Please welcome, she's at home here, Leslie Contreras Schwartz.
Thank you so much, Joni. Can everyone hear me okay? So in 1998, Tony invited this 19-year-old morbidly shy poet who had written only to herself in her bedroom to come read at Chapultepec. And it was the most frightening experience of my entire life. And I loved it. And it was the first time that I saw myself as a writer, as a serious writer. And I knew that with the support of Tony and Nuestra Palabra, that I could put my mind to it and achieve what I wanted in my writing career. And I have. So thank you, Tony. And thank you. And cultivating so many writers and artists and inspiring me. So I'll be reading a poem as part of the Houston Grand Opera project, where they have invited poets to write a poem inspired by one of the works that they're producing. So I wrote a poem about the biblical figure Salome. Salome, it was a Jewish girl who was requested to dance for her stepfather, King Herodias. She asked in return for doing this seductive dance for her stepfather, she asked for the head of John the Baptist. This story has been mythologized and changed in so many ways, sexualized a young girl. I won't analyze it, but I'll go ahead and present it. I reimagined the narrative and using multiple voices, including Salome's voice. This is a contrapunto poem, which is a multitude of voices. And it's called Contrapunto for Salome, the men versus Salome scenes. Dance for me, Salome, he says. Quiver. I say, I am the moon smearing the sky. They say, make beastly to me, girl, make deathly omen in the hips, a bite of love between my lips, desire for ivory and white teeth moon. Don't look at her, and back away I say. And you say, Solomon, oh profane body into a stupid story. You marionette my limbs, hands fluttering, covered with diaphanous purple veils, while slipping on the stage of blood-slick anti-Semitism and hatred of women. You tell me to hate yourself, Solomon, by saying dance for me, Solomon, and hate myself. They do not see me slip off to bathe in the moon alone to soak up silence. She cannot refuse to offer herself on a platter. Mama, why can't I refuse to offer myself on a platter? I will not hate this body, Salome. Breasts, arms, feet, Salome of hips and sweet piece of body. You slip me feet mad, beastly and wretched. This is how you profane me, you maker of crusades, missionaries, conversos, pogroms, ovens. The murder of 6 million and more in your song fails to undress a dance for me, Solomon. I will slice your hate onto a plate and use the knife to cut the barbed wire around the neck. This is your head, songmaker, not mine. I will see myself as I see myself, says Solomon. Even if you kill me, I will not dance, nor beast, nor quiver. I will tell my children not to hate, or make dove or drip for jewel. No, I am historical Queen Solomon, Jewish queen of 76 before Common Era. Shalom Zion, peace of Zion. My body bore a name of Diana into 1,000 fields of wildflowers. It is enough, Holy One, to be with my children, to dance with them. Is it not enough, Holy One, to be safe and to sit at a table with a glass with Elijah, to sing at the table of song? My hands cover my face as I sing in the quivering candlelight. Shema, I pray to you, Holy One. Sing for me, Mama. Shema for us, Mama. Yes, I will not hate nor shut my mouth. I will reach out to touch those who have earned my touch. I will open, love, not quiver from touch. I will dance, Solomon, Shalom, Solomon, my name in Hebrew, a moon made of peace, lilac, lace, headcloth, clean linen on the clothesline. I sing to women as we work and pray with our bodies. I sing to the girls in their moonlit songs. Sing to me, girls. Sing the story we've dreamt for thousands of years of Holy One in our holy bodies. Dance of your own divinity. I listen, Solomon, my daughters. You will dance of your own joyful hip, belly, breast, feet, glittering hands and eyes. The divine lives here. Full-bodied girls. Solomon, I see you. Solomon, I see you as you live in your body. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do want to give a shout out to Leslie's brother, Russell Contreras, who's one of the founding members of Nuestra Palabra. And I do want to mention that he is now the Race and Social Justice Editor nationally for Axios. So, it's great to see our homeboy. And I know sometimes parents are scared that when their kids want to become poets, it's like terrifying to some parents. And I say a couple things. One, it's hard to create poets and writers. Okay, it's very hard actually. But what happens is that they wind up becoming wonderful doctors as well, lawyers, professors. Every walk of life is touched by literature in different ways. And then we as writers, we just don't stay in that lane. I say that as I bring up our next speaker. He's a dear friend of mine, and it gives me an excuse to mention that and confess to you, I was born in Chicago. However, when Dagoberto Guild published me in Hecho, Texas, I got my Texas papers, okay? 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 Saqué los papeles de Texas. However, I was so happy to be proud. I was proud to be the first Chicano to earn a Master of Finance in Creative Writing. But I also, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. But I also say that because there were a lot of people behind the scenes right now as diversity, equity, and inclusion is being attacked. It was being celebrated then because they were importing Mexicans from Chicago, evidently then. And I got to meet a dear friend who would become the first Vietnamese American poet to graduate from the University of the Creative Writing program. He's continued to work his poetry. He's also now at Houston Endowment, and he understands our community and translates it for philanthropy. And I do want to point out and thank the Houston Endowment who bestowed upon Nuestra Palabra a grant for $250,000 last year. And we want to welcome him to our house. Please welcome Long Chu.
Thank you so much, Tony. Listen, I am a poet, but I didn't bring anything to read. What I am going to share with you is, well, Tony, I think, is finally having his say. Little did I know when they were stacking 8 teaching assistants in one tiny cubicle office at U of H. I was actually sharing in my second year in office with Tony. I don't think he remembers me, because even then, Tony was so assured of his voice that I, unable to find my own at that time, fell out of his orbit because of how powerful he was. Harry Belafonte recently died, and he said that he is an activist that happens to be an artist. And Tony is an activist that happens to be as well. That blood of activism was pulsing like a heartbeat through Tony, even in those young years. And it's so wonderful now that we are orbiting together, 2 bodies trying to push against the structures that exist, as you are also bodies in that galaxy. Because it takes more than 2 or 4 or 12 people to do it. So this is continuous work. I had a conversation with Tony the other day that feels like a closed circle finally, because for that length of time that I sort of fell out of orbit, I didn't have any opportunity to sort of find the ground that Tony stood on so easily. And with such admiration, I've seen your work from afar, even in those years when I was at Writers in the Schools, and we hired Leslie and Russell, the Contreras siblings, as writers, teaching children, putting poetry into the hands of children. It's so wonderful to be here and celebrate you, Tony, celebrate Nuestra Palabra, but the organization is an organization that cannot exist without Tony. And so really, in essence, we are celebrating you and what you have brought into the world in the spectacular orbiting that you do. So fast and furious, I don't think any of us can keep up. So the conversation the other day was, we recognize that we are both at an opportunity time, both at our, and not so old age, but definitely not young, but wise enough to know where and when we can push and how hard we can do it. So we said to each other, we agreed that, Tony, you keep pushing outside, and I'll push from the inside out. You push from the outside in. And I think that together, as evidence in the continual investment that Houston Endowment has enacted to lift up our spectacular arts and culture sector, that we can continue to do that. And it isn't one person's work. It is not 2 or 4 or 12. It is an entire community. And you are simply a mere representation of the vastness of that galaxy. So let's keep orbiting, keep evolving, and we are going to let you know.
Thank you very much, Long. It really is a pleasure to get to move from workshopping poems to workshopping cities together. So, así nos vamos a unir. Y me da un poco de pena, I'm a little, that's very kind. I can only suffer such nice and kind words because I'm a member of the American Leadership Forum. I know Noreen is the president, she's here as well. My colleague Susan Osberg, shout out to them. Many American Leadership Forum people. And I say that because as a kid, I would always hear people say, "Se cree? Se cree?" American Leadership Forum told me, well, if we're serving leaders, we can accept that. Well, we're serving to help the community and ourselves. So I appreciate your kind words. And I do want to give a shout out to some of the other folks as well. You mentioned some of our hardcore activism. I want to give a shout out to the Libre Traficantes. You know, come together. And there were 5 alums of Nuestra Palabra, all of whom had 10 years at least experience in Nuestra Palabra. Brian Paras, Diana Lopez, Laura Costa, Lupe Mendez, and then Diana, Lupe, Laura, Brian, and myself. Some of them aren't here because we can't all be in the same room at once in case we get caught. And I do want to give a shout out to the Libre Traficantes who jumped on a bus with us on their own dime when Arizona legislators banned Mexican-American studies, and we did something about it, including Libre Traficante crusher Tony Garcia, we had Laura Costa in the house, we had some other Libre Traficantes in the room. And I say all that because it was fair, it was just, and we won. And when we come together, we are stronger, wiser, and we do it all for the right reasons. And I know that Houston is better for it, and America is better for it. On that note, we have 2 artists left, and then we're gonna, we need all y'all to mingle, talk to each other, trade cards, and we wanna have some of the great food, and we wanna talk about coming up to the next parties. We wanted to close out with a poet, and then a visual artist. And the next poet is a dear friend of mine. She's a co-founder of Quintero Projects. I really am so excited that, Jasmine, I got to know you when you were early in your career. And you got to meet other writers, other folks. And you've also been talking about representation for Afro-Latinos before it became a mainstream thing. And it's still not enough of a mainstream thing. And I love it because you were doing that and we were teaming up before it was a word. I'm proud to say that now, not only are you published with our friends at Arte Público Press, we have Irina Tristan in the back, round of applause for her, and Dr. Canelos, we have Nadette Cicero. And she is down with la gente, pero ahora, oye, está yendo bien. You can get a PhD in Jasmine Mendez studies now, okay? Penguin Press is publishing her. She's translated into Spanish some of the poetry of Amanda Gorman, and she's got another book coming out. So please welcome our dear friend, a star, Jasmine Mendez.
In the front, I didn't realize how full this room was. Thank you, Tony. It feels like every time I turn around, it's like another NP anniversary. Did we just have, but in the best way possible? I feel like we just had one of these. I think there was one for 10 years, quinceañera, then 20, and now here we are, 25. I just want to say how amazing it is, because I've been in Houston for a little over 20 years, and I have known everyone and worked with almost all of the folks that have walked up here. I was an intern at Diverse Works in 2003 when Sixto Wagon was there. I worked with Long Chu at Writers in the Schools for many years, and I was escorting writers around at the Latino Family Book Festival and reading really bad poems at Helios, AKA Avant Garden, back before, you know, Juan and all that good stuff. So I'm just honored and grateful. Thank you to be here, for having me here. Quintero Projects would not exist without Nuestra Palabra. Lupe and I took it upon ourselves to try to continue the open mics and the readings and the workshops that Nuestra Palabra began with, and to continue that, you know, throughout the city, to foster new talent, to bring in other Latino writers from outside of the city to do readings and workshops with writers here in Texas and Houston. And so we're just very grateful for all the support that Tony, Houston Endowment, BAMF, all of these wonderful organizations that have supported us. So thank you, congrats, Tony. I'm just gonna read 2 short poems here and be on my way. Yes, I'm Dominican. Yes, my Spanish is different than a lot of the Spanish you will hear out here in Texas. It has been my biggest gripe for the last 25 years since I moved to Texas. Dominicans, we call beans habichuelas. You will pry that word from my dead mouth, okay? I will not say frijoles. They are habichuelas. Unless, you know, the waitress is like, I'm sorry, what do you want? Frijoles. But I'm married Mexican, Lupe Mendez. And so, you know, I've learned to adjust things. So this is frijochuelas. Here, Texas, little Mexico, please don't take my Spanish away. Yo hablo español. I speak Dominican. Rolled R's and missing S's punctuate every loud "Como tu ta" that is thrown against your ears when you ask me once again, ¿Qué dijiste? What did you say? As if a Mexican and a Dominican spoke 2 different tongues. So I learned to adjust for you, slow down for you, elongate the vowels, articulate accents, and staccato every consonant like a mariachi trumpet for you. Replace my childhood language with words that won't ring in your ears like dropped bombs and try to fit in for you. Because guineo is a plátano is a plátano, bizcocho is a pastelito is a tamal, salsa is not the fire in your hips but flames that burn your lips and tickle the back of your throat. Ahorita means later instead of now, and I drink horchata instead of morir soñando through a popote and never a calimete. But please, dear Texas, little Mexico, don't take my Spanish away, because it echoes in my teeth like the last thump of conga drums in a merengue, because it bounces in the mouth like a bachata and not a bolero, because the words bubble on my tongue like a steaming sancocho on a sweltering summer day and make me feel full. Jargon like guachiman, zapacon, and pollina melt around my gums and sit like impacted wisdom teeth I refuse to extract, yet you spoon feed me pinche elotes, sopapillas, and raspas that collect like unwanted cavities. When all I want is maíz, yaniqueques, y un maldito frío to brush my teeth with. This is the Spanish of my grandfather, the conversations I will remember with my grandmother, and the only estate my Mexican children will ever inherit, because their abuelita Rosario will cook arroz con habichuelas and call it kindness, while their Mexican grandpa Mendez will stuff frijoles in a tortilla and call it love, while their father and I will invent a new, decolonized, virgin language, put it in a pot, Name them fricochuelas and call it home. The last piece is just, it's a new thing. So Tony's always made the open mic and the radio station and all the things a safe space for us to share work, whether it's in progress, whether it's polished, whether it's published, whether it's hot off the napkin at the bar. So thank you for that. So in that spirit, I wanted to share a new piece. Ruin, or my first Thanksgiving on the island of Hispaniola. As long as there are people in it, there is no perfect place. We have ruined everything. And this isn't about climate change or the environment, although we've ruined that too. In Boca Chica, my partner wonders how this town got its name. A small mouth pocket beach on an island in the middle of the sea that at any moment could swallow us up in one big gulp. I say, maybe it was a Taino word that was shaped into something the Spaniards could say. Or maybe when they saw it from the sea, they said with their hungry mouths, that looks like something small we could ruin with our teeth. And so it was how we devoured everything, how that man on that ship came and conquered flesh, and came and robbed the earth and the land and the body of its sweetness, how he whipped it out of us until we became cream, nothing but something that dissolves under the sun. And yet he, Colón, still stands unruined, etched in the stone at the park in La Zona Colonial, across the way from the cathedral, like a god pointing up into the sky. You know, we have a saying here, when we want to be facetious, when we want to gesture to the impossible. Cuando Colón baje el dedo, we say. When Columbus lowers his finger, you'll get your freedom, your wish, your happily ever after. If you love a place, at best, you're a patriot. At worst, you're a nationalist. I wish to be neither of those things. On a day when we are supposed to eat and eat and eat, I think of what we cannot harvest. The wind and its song, an ocean wave and the rain, the salt of the sea that stings my eyes and lips, my laughter and my hands closed into a fist, beating the earth blue until I bleed because I willed it so, and not by the force or fury of a man who thought these bodies of land and flesh were his to claim and carry into the mouth of ruin. I am longing to return home, to find a bird or a flower bud or a bison or a bosom that hasn't been touched and ruined, to discover some perfect place not tainted by tyranny. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you, because we've teamed up to get voices like this out here. And we've got our last presentation for tonight. As I mentioned, we're going to have several events from now to October 15th when Sandra Cisneros is coming to chill out. So this is my last chance to ask you for money. I do want to also thank some folks. Everybody here in the room has helped us in so many different ways and has lent their granito de arena. And I think the key part is going to be that our goal is to continue change. We want to accelerate community culture capital in very different ways. For food, Don Medrano is here, who's done so much with bringing our cuisine to the forefront as well. Valdemar Rodriguez from the Alley Theater, along with some of his colleagues from the Alley Theater, And again, forgive me if I can't shout everyone out. Everyone here has played a role. I do want to say we want to have you back on our show. We have our regular radio broadcast, Nuestra Palabra, Latino writers having their say, which is multi-platform now. So Roxana and Rodrigo are taping this right now. He's behind the scenes working the audio, so applause to them because they're all behind the scenes. And I want to close by, Jasmine was brave and said, I want to try something new. We're trying something new all the time, and we want to combine directly visual arts, and it gives us a chance to explain what we're doing here. And I'm going to call her up in a little bit. She's very nervous. Like, you know how some people say, I'm nervous? But you're like, not really. Well, she's really nervous. So I'm hoping that with a nice introduction, we can calm her fears. But as you've noticed, the visual arts, Alma, this is all research. And the findings are going into our report. When people say there's not enough Latino visual artists, they're wrong. Alma then uses resources to inspire 100 Houston Latino visual artists to submit their work. And then we pay nationally known curators to vet the pieces. They use their standards, which is basically part of their credibility, and they pick 33 visual artists. They've been named the 2023 Alma Latino Visual Artists on exhibit right here. So applause to them. And when I ask you for money, I'm asking for literary money. This is literary money. Visual arts money is, so I say all that because there will actually be an auction, another part of our fundings. I know this looks like a lot of fun. This is actually research. And the funding then sources, these will be auctioned off. You can go to the Alma website, almaahh.org. You can log in now for the auction. There will be a silent auction for these pieces. The funds raised from that, 50% will go to Alma. The other 50% will go to the artist. But what I want to be able to say in the research that we write is that we are cultivating an ecosystem of Latinos who can invest in Tesla, they can invest in stocks, they want to invest to give back. And this is the beginning of the road, a sustainable facility, all our own, and artists. I also want to tell you one other thing that's a really big deal. 5 of those recognized artists were further recognized by the curators, and they are now also Alma and Museum of Fine Arts Houston studio artists. So 5 of them will get a studio arts visit from Alma and the Museum of Fine Arts Houston. And I'm going to tell you why that's a big deal. My comadre, my Claudia, I see the sound back there. Y'all might just think I'm a nice guy and say, hey, this is great art. We've got proof. We've got curators that are saying as much. And Mari Carmen Ramirez at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston is one of the leading curators on the planet. For her to team up with Alma is powerful. And here's Houston moving forward. We need each other. Alma needs the Museum of Fine Arts for their expertise, their capital, and their credibility. The Museum of Fine Arts Houston needs us for our gente, our community culture capital, and to remain relevant. And it's simple. We can thrive together or disappear apart. We've decided to work together. So on that note, I do want to bring up one of the visual artists. These pieces, these will be live auctioned. That's exciting. I've never been involved in one. So those will be silent auction as of May 1st. You can go online and begin the silent auction. We're all friends, but okay, we'll be bidding against each other. It's not here. It's for a good cause. On May 12th, here, there'll be a culinary art exhibit. There will be a live auction for these pieces. And we're going to draw attention to this piece. I want to call it Viri Ramos, por favor, una Latina visual artist desde Mexico. She's really nervous. Did the introduction make you more nervous or less nervous? More nervous. That defeated the purpose. She is also one of the 5 visual artists who will have a studio visit from the Museum of Fine Arts Houston Mari Carmen Ramirez, and Alma. Our chair is Geraldina Italiano Weiss. Two of our board members are here. Please stand up if you're a board member for Alma, por favorcito. Por favor, por favor. And her piece, right here, she's going to tell us the title. It's based on a poem. I'm going to read the poem in Spanish, and then she's going to explain the piece. Pero por favor, díganle a todos, nuestra gente aquí, el título de la pintura.
El cuadro, the title of the painting is El Credo. That is a popular poem in Mexico written by Ricardo López Méndez. I learned it in elementary school, and I just never forgot it. It speaks about the passion and love we have for Mexico. And I use textures and gesso to resemble concrete. If you get close, you'll see that it says Mexico Guarantee, and it's a little bit chipped away. So you'll hear in the poem that it talks about the unbreakable love you have for your country, and things happen and it goes through things, but your love is still there. You don't know why it's there. It's in your soul. So that's why I wanted to resemble it breaking, but still staying together. And you'll be kind enough to read it.
Fantastic, thank you. Wait. El Credo, México creo en ti, por Ricardo López Méndez. ¿Algunos de ustedes conocen este poema? Algunos, ¿verdad? México, creo en ti. Como en el vértice de un juramento, tú hueles a tragedia, tierra mía, y sin embargo ríes demasiado. ¿Acaso porque sabes que la risa es la envoltura de un dolor callado? Second stanza. Así es, así es, así es. Second stanza. México, creo en ti, sin que te represente en una forma, porque te llevo dentro, sin que sepa lo que tú eres en mí, pero presiento que mucho te pareces a mi alma, que sé que existe, pero no la veo. Third stanza. México, creo en ti, en el vuelo sutil de tus canciones que nacen porque sí, en la plagiaría que yo aprendí para llamarte patria. Algo que es mío en mí como tu sombra, que se tiende con vida sobre el mapa. And the last stanza, the last expert, the fourth stanza. México, creo en ti, en forma tal que tienes de mi amada la promesa y el beso que son míos, sin que sepa por qué me entregaron. No sé si por ser bueno o por ser malo, o por qué del perdón nazca el milagro. México, creo en ti. And in closing, we want to talk about how the poetry inspires the visual art. ¿Qué significa ese poema para ti? ¿Y qué significa ti para poder declamar ese poema aquí en el público, en tu nueva casa de Houston, Texas? Y más que nada, que a lo mejor esta obra va a formar parte de nuestras vidas, nuestras historias.
You know, when I painted it, I didn't realize how old the poem was. It was from 1940. And what I realized is that the feelings that we as citizens of our country feel back then get expressed and last forever. So the words, the strength of them, how it lasts, and their permanence. And then in speaking here during the opening of Alma, I spoke to someone from even another country, and I explained the poem to them, and it also impacted them. And that's the way I feel about my country sometimes, and how the strength of words it reaches everybody. And I started painting Mexican art because I was born and raised in Mexico, but I have a son here, I'm married here. He won't get to grow up with everything that I grew up in Mexico, so I started painting, and I started with a superhero. I started with Chapulín Colorado to kind of grasp his attention. And then I went to Cantinflas and Negrete, and I started to get all these figures into my house to surround them. And then I made a piece on the back. It's a blue book with a concha. I started getting not just the icons, but things that are iconic to us and turn them into character themselves. And then it went to songs with México Lindo y Querido, and eventually to a poem. And it's just all to get my son that's not growing there to get pride and know where he's from
I did it all for him, and now I'm in front of grown-ups, but it's for him and the other children growing up here that don't have that everywhere. I started creating puzzles to make art accessible to others. My intention is to get every Mexican art in everybody's wall so that kids grow up and can identify with it and not being I think in the past a lot of people have been quiet about where they're from and taught to not maybe speak Spanish or hide their identity, and with this I hope to show children to just paint it, sing it, put it in your walls, through poetry, through everything that's wrong. So
And I do want everyone to turn back. You see the concha from here. Turn back, you see the concha head in the back. That's her other painting. So she's got the whole room on bookends. Desde allá hasta acá. That one will be part of the silent auction. This will be part of the live auction. And ¿tienes otras obras aquí? Son esos dos. Son esos dos. And she's a fantastic public speaker, no? Thank you so much. You've been a fantastic audience. We're going to now convene for some of the delicious food provided for us, some of the fantastic wine. I want to thank all of you for taking the time and energy for so long. And please do scan the Q code and tell your friends about this. And please stay tuned for some of the other events. From the bottom of our heart, more than anything, thank you so much for changing the world with us. Gracias.